There it is.
Oh, it says
The recording has started. We're recording now.
Okay, good. Hello, everybody, and here we are at the QCS 40th anniversary gathering, and we're welcoming our former accompanist, Carla Errichiello-Hill. Welcome. It's so great to see you again. Well, or for the first time for me since high school, dear. It was, we won't go into how long ago that was, no. I hope you're doing well, and it's terrific to see you.
Yes.
So how was it that you got connected to Quincy Choral Society?
Well, that's a story that maybe is unique to me. Back in 1980, the summer of 1980, Bob Brown called up my house because he had been my piano professor at Eastern Nazarene, and we remained friends after I graduated. In fact, I kept taking piano lessons from him. So he called up and he said, I would like to come to your house. At the time, I was still living with my parents in Quincy Point, and tell you some news and ask you something. And I said, sure. So he came over one summer's night, and my mom and dad and myself and Bob Brown sat outside. He had been approached by Andy and Nancy Nelson, and I believe Eleanor Nelson. No connection there, but Eleanor was the concert mistress at Quincy Symphony for years and years. I did not know the Nelsons up to that point. Anyway, years and years ago, there had been apparently a Quincy Choral Society that had disbanded maybe in the 40s or 50s, and they wanted to revive it and have a community chorus again. So the Nelsons approached Bob Brown to be the first conductor of the group. And he said yes, and they said, well, do you have anybody in mind for your accompanist? And he said, oh yes, I do, my student Carla Errichiello. And so he came over that night to propose it all to me and to ask me, and I said yes, because he was just such a fine musician and such a wonderful person. I couldn't say no. And that's how it all began. Gave me a bunch of music, I practiced, and we had our first rehearsal that September, maybe just a month later. That's how it all began.
Wow. What was that first rehearsal like? I hear it was a very dark and stormy night.
I remember it vaguely. I just remember more than that, that there were lots of people there, more than we ever imagined would show up. So whoever did the publicity did a great job, but whether it was the Nelsons or whomever it was, that we had a great showing and we had lots of people singing. It was very exciting, very, very exciting experience. And, you know, I got to know the Nelsons very well. They were wonderful people, real supporters of the arts in Quincy. They had this idea and it actually came to fruition. And now 40 years later, it's still in existence. So their dream came true. And I don't think they're with us any longer, but
No.
The other thing, the impact that they had on my life personally is, I mean, I was pretty young then, back in 1980.
We all were, Carla.
I know. And they said to me, you know, I was single, do you travel? And I said, well, a little here and there. You have to come to Florida. That's where we winter. And I said, oh, I've never been there. And they encouraged me to travel. So I did. I went down to Sarasota, which is where they had their winter home. And, you know, stayed in a B&B and rented a car on my own and tooted around and explored. And one day I was on the beach in Sarasota walking along, and everybody was doing what they call the Sarasota stoop. And everybody was down looking for the seashells. And I'm down there and I look up and it was there with Nancy Nelson on the same beach at the same time.
Wow.
So they really had a profound influence on my life when I think about it in that way. to get out of my little comfort zone in Quincy and see the world. And I'll be forever grateful to them for that, as well as the music experience they brought me with Quincy Choral.
That's great.
Yeah.
How many years were you with us, Carla? I don't remember.
I was only there until 91, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, and then Gingy came in, thankfully, and she's been with you ever since. So it was a real find.
Yeah, that's for sure. You were there. You were with us when John Nichols conducted, though, I think. And
Yes.
maybe 1 year, maybe. I don't know.
Several years with John. What it was,
Okay.
Bob Brown was there, I think maybe 5 years at the most.
Not,
And-
I don't even think he was there that many times.
Maybe not.
Carla, only maybe 3. Well, I joined in the second year, and he had taken a leave, and we had Ralph Farris that year, and then
Okay.
Bob came back, and the next year after that, and that was it. He stopped.
Right,
Yeah.
that's right. And then we had, remember Janet, we had a couple of interim people.
We had Ed McClary, who we all loved. He was young and handsome.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Brian O'Connell. So you must have been with us when we had Brian
was with
O'Connell.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was good. And then John came.
Right.
yes.
Right.
And as I say, it was there until 91. So how many ever years that was?
Whatever. Yeah.
Working with all these talented conductors, that was another thing I wanted to say. I learned so much about choral conducting, voice, because I was a keyboard major in college. And yes, I did sing in choirs and, was schooled that way, but I learned so much more just working under them, to the point where I had the confidence to go on and become a choral conductor in churches mostly. And I was at St. Joseph's in Quincy
I
for,
was going to say that. Yeah. Yeah.
and then when I got married, I went to Hanover and became a choir director at a church in Hanover for a number of years. And I don't think I would have had the chutzpah to do that if I
Right.
hadn't worked under these great people and so much from them. Another big benefit of being in Quincy Choral Society. It just gives it gave me that extra boost that I needed of confidence, because I said, well, I can play the keyboard pretty well, but what do I know about conducting people? And I learned from them that it was possible. I have a little vignette about John Nichols, if you want me to share that.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
John was quite a character, as you know, and a brilliant man. So we had one concert, and I forget what the piece was, but obviously something Baroque. It required harpsichord accompaniment.
Okay.
And, most people would just say, take your electric keyboard and hit the harpsichord button, but not John. He went out and he bought a harpsichord kit, and he put do you remember this? He put the harpsichord together.
Together.
He put
Yeah.
the harpsichord in his home when he was up in Danvers. I don't know if he's still there anyway. And he called, he asked my parents' permission to bring it to Quincy, to our home, and leave it in the dining room so I could practice on it. My parents, having me as a daughter in the music, anything goes, sure, bring it down. So one day he brought it down and he set it up in the dining room and he tuned it up. And I practiced on it for a good 2 to 3 weeks before the concert. And we put whatever piece it was on the harpsichord.
Oh, that's funny.
Great experience for me and for the chorus. And just, he always wanted to add to the authenticity of the performance.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
Oh, that's a great story. That's a great story.
Wow,
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
that.
built it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a wonderful experience. And, all the pieces that we did, no matter whether it was Baroque or classical, the romantics,
Mm-hmm.
the contemporary, I think the chorus was most resistant to some of the contemporary things we did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some of them,
Definitely.
I don't know if it was Brian or which one, the interim fellow, that he had some really way out things. But we learned so much from them. The rhythms and the key changes, and it stretched you in ways that if you were just singing Vivaldi all the time, you wouldn't have learned.
Right. That's
these
true.
other musical.
That's very true. That's
So
very
they were learning, they were teachers in the fact that they knew maybe it wouldn't be received too well in the beginning, but in retrospect, well, now I know what it is to go from 4/4 to 5/4 and back to 4/4 and change keys and so
definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
it stretches us. It's something that we need as musicians. You know, like the sour cherry cough syrup.
Yeah.
So
I remember when we sang with Ed McClary, he was only with us for 1 year, but we did Elijah in the spring for the spring concert. And that was, to me, I mean, I had never sung anything like that in my life. It was just a thrill. It's such a beautiful piece anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it? That's one of the most beautiful pieces to do.
Yeah.
And chorus for a community chorus.
Exactly.
It was excellent. People, working together to a common goal that a lot of people outside of music, this is a real big deal to do things. But then we had a lot of people like yourself and Diane who came from church choir backgrounds.
Right. Yep.
You had that ability already, but I know there were people in there who had never sung before in a group.
Right.
Yeah.
That mission to me is an important one. People who love music, but maybe can't even read music, should always be encouraged to come and join. And I used to do that with my church choirs as well. They come up in trepidation up to the choir level. I don't know how to read music. It's okay. We'll get there.
I knew how to read music. I had taken piano lessons as a child. I'm not a pianist by any means, but I have learned over the years. I mean, I've been in the chorus for 39 years, and I really can read now. And I've learned a lot from Joyce for sight reading.
Well, I learned a lot from my choir director. From my choir director at church for years, Alwyn Barrow. And we did think, not the choir, but he had a chorus also. And we did things like Creation and Elijah, Samson, and all those things. So that's where I learned it. But you talk about people that don't know and pick it up. Adele Quintiliani is a perfect example. She sits beside me. And when she started in the chorus, she had no idea up, down, left, right of the notes. And you should hear her now. She's questioning everything. Fantastic. She picked it up and she loves it.
Right. I mean, you learn so much. I've learned, like you say, I've learned the way you have, Carla, from working with the conductors and playing. I've learned so much by singing with these people. And I mean, it's just, that's why we all miss it so much right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You learn anything by osmosis if you're there long enough.
Exactly.
Right.
And you're open to it. It's just like, I don't know if I've ever met anyone who is a good cook that doesn't love to cook.
Right.
And it's a creative process. If you enjoy things that are creative, I think you'll love to be a musician and be in a musical setting. And the other benefit to it is the wonderful people that you meet over the years by being in music. And probably the reason why I didn't go the route of being a classical pianist, because it's so isolating.
Right.
And I like to be more of a people person, like to be with people in groups. There is a difference, I think, in the personality of those who go into solo performance and those who are in group situations with their music. And we all have our moments, and we certainly did have our moments with some of the conductors when things were going right.
That's for sure.
No conductor's name will be mentioned, but I remember a music stand one time. And, but, we all dead silence and let's pick it where we left
the maestro rules.
So it's always fun, and as you get older, remember those moments that at the time were very tense, but when you look back on it, you think that was really fun. What happened with that missed entrance on
Yeah.
you know, wrong entrance, whatever.
Well, I think a lot of pressure is on the accompanist to know, you almost have to read the conductor's mind to know what he wants. And I just marvel. I think, I where I sit, I could see your fingers and I can see Gingy's fingers. And I just love to watch you because, I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, it's something that you learn to do. And then when you get a new conductor, you have to learn it all over again.
Oh, definitely. Because you have to work so closely together. I mean, you have to be compatible.
Right. With Bob, it was easy because I knew him so well.
Right.
I could almost anticipate what he was going to do, what he was going to focus on. And so that wasn't as intimidating as it might have been if someone I didn't know had asked me to start a month later.
Exactly, especially where you were so young. Yeah, and not quite that experienced.
Right. But when you're young, though, your brain is quicker, your fingers are quicker, and you miss that as you get older. It's a physical thing. And at the time, I was working a 9-to-5 job. I was a teacher at one point, I think, in the beginning of Quincy Choral, and then I went into secretarial work just to pay the bills. And then you'd have to come home. I'd take a little rest, and then I'd go to East Milton until, what were we, 8 to 10 the rehearsals were?
Yeah, at that time it was, yes.
And come home, by 10:30 and try to wind down, which was difficult at that time of night.
Oh, yeah.
And get up the next day. And you could do it. You could do it then. And but it was so exciting. It was such an exciting life to have. And at the time I taught private students and then eventually got the church jobs on the weekend. So music was consuming. And it was just the best life. Just really
Now, do you do any professional work now, or do you just play for your own enjoyment?
Mostly for my own enjoyment. I did have, as I say, a second job at the Lutheran Church for a number of years with a wonderful choir. Just the most, and they're still my friends to this day. And it's funny, you mentioned I was down at the main desk a little bit earlier today, and the woman who's the marketing person for this development was there with a prospective person to come in, and she said, "Oh," he said to her, "Does anyone play that piano? There's a grand in the lobby."
Oh, wow.
She said, "Oh, well, this woman here does. She plays." And so she said, "We're having some kind of an event tomorrow. Would you be available to play some music?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm available." So things like that will crop up.
That's great.
Church, there's a very fine music director where I go to church now, and she will ask me on occasion to play. And I'm doing a little composing, which has been really fun.
Right.
Mostly, religious-based tunes and for my own enjoyment, but then I hope to at some point get them out there from my own experience, all the ups and downs we experience. So throughout our lives, by the time we're this age, I pour into those songs. So it's a great outlet for me.
Well, speaking of playing, would you play a little for us now?
I will. I'm going to play you a little bit of a Brahms waltz.
Oh,
Lovely. Nice.
oh, shit.